Welcome to Uncaged. Today we're speaking with Gamiel Gran. We're talking to the Chief Commercial Officer of the Mayfield Fund, and we'll talk more about what's happening in the venture capital space. Mayfield focuses us on bridging CXOs with the most innovative entrepreneurs, where magic can occur and driving high-scale innovation. Their CXO Innovation Network brings input on the market needs, real use cases, and the exchange of ideas. We'll talk more about what Mayfield is doing to make that all a reality. But before we get there, Gamiel, tell us a little bit about you and your career.
Great. Well, thanks for letting me be a speaker today. Really appreciate being here. Nice to meet you as well. So Gamiel Gran, I'm out here in California native for a long time. Went to school out here and started my career out here. Put myself through college, working at IBM as an intern, and of course IBM offered me a job, and from there went on to some pretty interesting roles, corporate development, strategic stuff at various software companies from Oracle, BEA, and a number of startups. Got into the venture world about now 20 years ago, and really have created a pretty interesting role. I've made up this title, Chief Commercial Officer, here at Mayfield. And Mayfield, of course, is an early stage venture capital firm. We invest in early stage companies to help them generate pretty innovative ideas to change the world. My role as a commercial officer is to help them realize commercial success. And that's the reason for the title. And so I spend time across our entire portfolio, which includes a number of different companies, sometimes as many as 60 companies total in our portfolio across the enterprise landscape, healthcare, climate, planet health sectors, et cetera. These are very early stage companies who need to realize market adoption and essentially commercial success. So that's what I get to do, and I'm happy to answer more questions about my background.
Gamiel, I love the title. I would say that what I think a successful venture capitalist really has to weed out and help a company with is taking sometimes what is a groundbreaking or even an idea that seems to have captured the imagination of the world and making it a commercial success, and turning the founders' brains into commercial-minded brains. So that's quite an important task. Tell me more really about what's happening with Mayfield now. Are there specific areas that you are focused on, or what's really happening?
Yeah, the world of venture capital goes through ups and downs, of course. Mayfield is one of the oldest venture firms here in the Valley. We, I think, celebrated our 54th year this year. So we're one of the original institutions. Early stage investing always means going into a company when they're pretty raw, as we just sort of discussed around reaching commercial success. We see literally thousands of business plans throughout the course of a single year and invest in about 1 or 2 deals every month. So we get the opportunity to see so many really fascinating entrepreneurs, innovative ideas, new approaches to solving things, to creating new markets, to disrupting markets. So overall for us, we're investing across the enterprise landscape, which is B2B software, cybersecurity, development tools. Of course, generative AI is a big new theme. We just launched an AI fund for that. We're doing investment in core deep tech, so semiconductor infrastructure as well. And then we're also investing in healthcare, devices, diagnostics, and new drugs, new therapeutics. So pretty bold, new world-changing, human-changing things. And then finally, planet health or climate. So sustainability opportunities for batteries, for new proteins, for methane management, a whole number of things. And again, I love my role, but it's a thrilling sort of space to be part of sort of the intersection between entrepreneurs with an eagerness to change the world and being able to support them both with capital from our fund, as well as support from our network to help them realize commercial success. So that's what I get to do in a day. So,
no, it's a great role. And on that topic of making the entrepreneur perhaps realize their commercial opportunity, or maybe develop it, maybe take it to the next level, what do you think some of the challenges are that you see across the board that you're always like, oh, it's always interesting where I, come across this.
Yeah, there's a very specific rubric that I try to help entrepreneurs realize, and realizing product market fit. So we all talk about, that rationalization of a product. There's a whole number of elements of that. And ultimately, what you have to do as an entrepreneur is create an offering that the market really aggressively wants to have. So a solution that is just so simple to understand and so elegant in its approach. And I call that realizing violent product market fit. So well beyond a nice to have solution, hey, I'll keep it in mind, to something that I just want to grab right out of your hand. My God, I need that right now. You have precisely designed the solution that solves my business pain. So getting to that sort of visceral response from your customer requires, one, you can tell a good story. Two, you've probably spent a lot of time listening to a number of possible customers, prospects, who have organized the way that they talk, the way that they measure things, the kind of needs they have, in a way where you refine your language, your offering, your use case, and even your entry use case in a way that just precisely fits them. So that's the realization of what I call violent product market fit. So it's both storytelling and a lot of listening and due diligence. Early design customers are the most effective vehicle to architect that answer.
Yeah.
But continuing to learn how to tell a story in a way that's really thoughtful, that spends time listening, where your customer or your prospect feels heard, is the other big attribute that I think we can often miss. Sometimes entrepreneurs are so eager to demonstrate their product and so eager to tell their story, they forget that sometimes they just need to listen for a little bit longer.
Gamiel, such great advice. It literally reminded me of a conversation I had at dinner last night with a young entrepreneur who was just a brilliant engineer and was brilliant at kind of the product design and how they were going. But they seemed to not understand that they weren't really having commercial success because they had no idea of what a customer actually wanted. And then I think what you just raised is a great point. I'm just curious what happens sometimes. I found with a lot of startups where they'll launch with something and the founders are so keen to sell, I don't know, let's say they want to sell paintings, right? They're super keen to sell paintings, but in fact, actually, nobody's coming to them to buy paintings, but they're quite interested in buying tickets to maybe events of some sort. And they're kind of like, but we sell paintings. That's our business. How hard is it to kind of get them to embrace that moment where they're like, oh, wait, our business is actually there?
I long understood the listening concept based on training that I took from IBM right out of school. IBM sent me to sales training in Atlanta for a year. We would go for a month and we would have to do these very aggressive challenges around trying to close a deal on a new product, everything from selling a mainframe to a copier and everything in between. And they would put us into little groups. And I would always say, hey, I want to be the closer. And everybody would say, why would you want to be the closer? That's the hardest job. It's like, no, you guys are just going to educate the heck out of me so that I can know how to close. You'll give me all the information. And it was a rubric that I understood, which was conversation is the insight for an answer. And if you can create conversation that's thoughtfully listening, thoughtfully encouraging the person you're talking to share and share more and share even well beyond what they think they need to share, you can all of a sudden be well educated. And so I would say, okay, we have one mouth and two ears. I'm going to double down on the listening. Ask thoughtful and provocative questions, and the customer, the prospect, would tell us precisely what they wanted to buy, when they wanted to buy it, what price they were willing to pay, who in the organization also needed to approve it, and who was going to sign it and with what date and deadline. And then I would offer that back and say, so just to recant what you've told us here, you need the following solution delivered on the following day, but we first need to get approval from Bob, Susan, and John. Once we have that, do we have your approval to move forward? And they would say, absolutely. You've been listening so well. And it's the listening so well, I think, is the skill set that we all so often forget. So 2 ears, 1 mouth, listen a lot. And guess what? You'll understand that they don't want to buy paintings, but maybe an element of that painting is quite interesting to them.
Yeah.
You've actually created an even better solution.
Now, I mean, Gamiel, we're in an interesting moment from a kind of an economic cycle perspective. I think we had this lovely pandemic, and then that led to an interesting economic roller coaster. Some people are saying things are getting better. It depends really on who I talk to or in what part of the world they're in. But how is that impacting the approach that you and the team take to even assessing what is commercial success right now?
Yeah, in the macroeconomic scheme, I do think you're right. There are some headwinds that are pretty substantial. Cost of money has really changed the economic basis for designing a startup that perhaps even just a couple of years ago could have lost money at scale as a way to attract early customers. Today, the objective, based upon money being more expensive, says you got to get to unit economics much faster. You've got to get to a path of profitability in a much different way. Interestingly, that sort of harshness of the market drives a lot of grit, drives a lot of clarity on how you need to focus your business. And longitudinally, we think that when the market is less supportive economically, you actually have even more robust and brilliant ideas. The entrepreneur has to work so much harder to really break out an idea. They have to spend much more cautiously with the limited amount of capital they raise from their venture firm. And they have to hire carefully, getting the right people at the right time. And then when they do have a customer, boy, that customer needs to be a brilliant success, not just an okay success, but a true brilliant success. All of that sort of fine tuning creates excellent companies. So again, if you look at it longitudinally, some of the best companies ever in the industries were created in economically hard times. So it's there's headwinds, macro, but perhaps positive on the outcomes.
Yeah, maybe it makes people more resourceful, maybe a little bit tougher to weather storms, the ups and downs. I like that perspective. Well, Gamiel, I mean, you've been working in this broader venture space for some time, and you've seen everything, but clearly I feel that people gravitate to certain industries, and I always wonder, what is it about that kind of gets them up in the morning? Tell me a little bit about your passion for what you do.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time helping our portfolio companies, and I think that's part of my servant mentality. I love to help. I've also realized that there's a lot of corporate innovation leaders who come out here to the Valley to learn, what are we doing? What are you guys in the venture world investing in, and why? And how can you help us better understand these new technologies so that we can potentially integrate them for our own selfish needs? And so I've created this intersect function between our startups and the broader CIO, CTO community who wants to be buyers of advanced technology. And in doing so, we've created this whole huge network of people who come to us that we've befriended, that we listen to around what their needs are and try to support them with new innovative approaches to things. I've actually turned this into a whole corporate innovation rubric that I call the 3 I's of corporate innovation. So that's my passion, helping the intersect between innovators and operators who need technology for their own benefit. So from American Express to Emirates Airlines to Samsung and all kinds of companies, they come here to the Valley and they say, what are you guys doing? Where are the investments going? And then they ask the bigger question, geez, how do we work with one of these really young companies? They're so raw. They're not really enterprise ready yet. And so I talk about, as I say, the 3 I's of corporate innovation, which is the ideation, incubation, and investment themes. And there's very specific tools, processes, organization, and ownership of metrics that need to be put in place for a large corporate team to actually be quite astute at innovating. And I often talk about, you can't be a JV here. You got to go Olympics. You got to be really competitive. You want to be the best in your category, the best against your own competition in being able to leverage innovation even faster and better. So get good at this game. Don't pretend that you're an innovator. Be awesome at it. So I ask them to become, not just use the 3 I's, but to become Olympic level innovators.
Yeah, I love that. I think probably maybe because I am an entrepreneur now and worked at many, many large firms, I often get a little uneasy when I hear a large company say that they're entrepreneurial. And I'm kind of like, I'm always like, really? Really? And I think maybe I'll use your rubric to kind of suss it out. Like, are you really ready to embrace this? Because you need to. But I think it was very trendy for a while just to talk about business as entrepreneurial when
Yep.
perhaps, when you're a Fortune 50 company, maybe you're not.
Well, there are a number of companies that are quite amazing at it, and
Yeah.
and that's essentially the grounding of my thesis. I just listened to some great innovators and entrepreneurial people within large organizations who have figured out how to make what they do truly awesome.
Yeah.
And so there are some masterful resources and innovators in the market that we can all learn from. So
Very, very true. Well, I mean, Gamiel, we're again, as I said, living in interesting times, and here we are heading to the back part of 2023. What's on the docket for Mayfield Fund and what you're working on?
well, the big topic of the moment here in August of 2023 is generative AI. We believe that we are at the beginning of a generational transformation of the entire enterprise software stack, and the way that it delivers solutions to individuals, companies, end users, everyone, in a way that drives productivity that we've never seen. So I'm an economist by schooling, and I look at this as one of these macro opportunities to change individual productivity that will impact GDP in a way that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of things that we're seeing with generative AI, I mean, AI has been around for years. We've been collecting data. We've talked about data as the new oil for nearly a generation. But all of a sudden, with generative AI, we can democratize that data in a way that we've never been able to before. Individuals understand how to use ChatGPT or Bard or any other advanced search tool in a way to just help their own individual work. We're going to see, though, companies leverage this in a way to change the individual productivity of large, massive teams that is going to cut off a lot of the waste that we have. And that's going to go straight to the bottom line. That's going to improve profitability. It's going to improve earnings. It's going to improve a number of different things at a corporate and personal level. I think productivity will become the new must-have term in annual reports, where people will talk about how they're leveraging AI in a way that changes the cost to do things, the amount of hours wasted on manual steps and steps that don't make any sense today, and really changing a lot of different things, from healthcare to climate to just responding to a customer support request. A lot of tasks we think can be fundamentally changed. So we have launched a whole new fund just to focus on helping early entrepreneurs build success at this, what we call inception stage of AI.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's amazing to hear that. I mean, where do you think we are in terms of that journey?
It's a great question. I had somebody talk to me the other day, and they said, this is like we're jumping into a marathon, and we're just like the first 100 yards into a marathon here. We are early, for sure. There's a lot of hype and a lot of noise. I was just fortunate enough to have a group of CIOs here from the Bay Area in for a roundtable discussion, and we talked about the truths of generative AI. And there's a lot of risks associated with it. How do you build your own language model? How do you avoid leakage and all these other kind of problems around risk of data and how it gets used? How do you leverage all of this great data that you've collected for years, but not open source it out to the world? So the infrastructure is still a little raw. The idea making is robust, though. Companies are leveraging this technology, running hackathons, internal use case designs, looking across the entire organization. I mean, they're mapping every individual across the organization, from customer support to accounts payable to sales organization to marketing teams to analyst groups, and every individual saying, how do we leverage all of this great insight? And what they're realizing is it's quite doable. So I expect, I mean, my prediction is the rest of 2023 will be the year of, or the time of experimentation. As we launch into 2024, I think CIOs' budgets are going to spend aggressively on leveraging new technology, either to build or buy generative AI solutions that have direct impact to the bottom line around productivity.
Right.
I also expect that boards, Wall Street, CFOs, those who measure the operational attributes of a business are going to demand that technology provides that kind of result. Those are the projects that will get funded first. And then we as individuals are going to demand it as well. Why are we still doing stupid work? Why are we still doing collection of data to put it into a report when I can just ask a GPT tool to summarize it for me in a really elegant way?
Yeah.
So I think the whole water level is going to come up across every sector. And so to me, in the end, I do think some of the predictions we're hearing from some of the large analysts that this will increase global GDP is true.
Well, I'm excited to hear that. I mean, obviously, we work quite heavily in the machine learning space, so I'm quite aware of it. It's the thing that I'm always surprised about. I would say my experience to date is that larger companies that will embrace this as customers and utilize it are thinking about it in a almost like a test case basis right now. So they're in that test phase. They're kind of like, oh, well, we'll trial this, we'll test it. And that's great. However, the miss there is that there's not a lot of organizational rethinking going on, in terms of, all right, well, if we scale this, how is that going to completely change the way we hire, how we manage people's careers, how, there's a lot of major shifts here. I would say the work that I've done, I've found that there's really a very short list of companies that have thought this through deeply, probably Amazon being one of them, that where I've been impressed at how they've really tried to kind of upskill and rethink that stuff. But even they're struggling, right? So it's a fascinating time, but I'm with you, Gamiel. I mean, this is it. This is the big moment. This is going to be the next decade for all of us, right?
Yeah, and I think that's right. The framing of the next decade is probably the right amount of time for, and I would agree, the experimentation should happen, and it should happen at scale. So my core thesis around driving innovation, I think this is a time to really drive a lot of innovation.
Yeah.
I do though think that large companies are going to be either fast followers or adopters at portions of scale, not across the organization.
Yeah.
They'll look for very specific outcomes before they drive really hard across the organization. So I sort of think of it in 3 layers, which is, let's advance the capability of search where we can just find information so much more elegantly.
Yeah.
And the second layer is let's provide a superpower agent to every person in the organization that says, what if I gave you all the data that we've always had about products, features, customer records, et cetera, and not make it so hard to search that out? So agent superpower. And then you're right. The third layer is really transforming the entire workflow of that role. So why are we doing customer support like this at all? Why don't we rethink this entirely rather than just adding more capability to this individual? Why don't we rethink it fundamentally? And I think it'll go through those stages as part of the horizon model sort of thesis. And I think we're at horizon 1 or 2. Horizon 3, which is the truly disruptive, truly transformative, will probably come from startups who say, guess what? Here's a whole different way to design and deploy a product. Here's a whole different way to support a customer. And that elegant solution ought to be one of these violent product market fits where companies say, that's the new game change. That's the new platform. And we're moving away from the old and we're going to go to the new. So I do think you're right. It's a period of time to get there, though.
Yeah, we're at the starting gates here. So that's amazing. Well, Gamiel, it's been amazing chatting with you. If someone wanted to learn more about what you and the Mayfield Fund are working on, where's the best place to reach you?
So you can reach me directly. You can either go to our Mayfield website, mayfield.com. I have a very specific page on the website called CXO of the Future. I'm always trying to drive innovation for the CXOs of the world, and we continue to do broadcasting and content and shared learnings from our community. So you can find me there. You can engage with me directly, and my contact information is on our website.
Excellent. Well, We've been speaking with Gamiel Gran. He is the Chief Commercial Officer of the Mayfield Fund. It's a venture capital group focused on early stage businesses. They're working across all verticals. And we've been talking to Gamiel really on what companies are doing to grow, scale, move forward. That's exactly what he's focused on. We've been also trying to get a sense of really what are the hottest topics. And clearly the hot topics is generative AI. And we can see that playing a role really across, I'd say, almost every area of every business for now until the end of time. But certainly over the next decade, we're going to see this shaping businesses going forward. Gamiel, thank you so much for being on the Uncaged show, and we look forward to having you back.
Great. Thank you so much. Fun conversation.
Cheers.